So he's back for our book club Tuesdays, as ever, with his picks of this week. One involving, well, a film that we've all seen recently, but the book came out a few years ago. Catterall will be talking us through 127 Hours, Between a Rock and a Hard Place, but we'll kick off then with Local Boy Made Good, please.
Indeed, this is Russ Litten and his book Scream If You Want to Go Faster. He's a local boy from Hull, and he's been getting a huge swell of support in his hometown. I think he recently did a reading in Waterstones, and pretty much everyone in Hull turned up, including all of his old school, and stripped the shelves of his book. And it's now, I think, outselling pretty much every book in Hull Waterstones.
in that area. Yeah. So what are we getting with Scream If You Want to Go Faster?
We're getting a fantastic, I really think this is wonderful, a multi-voiced narrative, a kind of multi-stranded compilation of stories that intersect and intercross, and people stagger in and out of people's Venn diagrams.
Yeah.
There's about 10 different stories going on here, and they're all set against the backdrop of the Hull Fair, or let's say in the shadow of the big wheel of the nationally famous Hull Fair.
In one waterlogged October,
This is right, yes. It's set about a month after the horrific, I mean, I'm sure you remember this, the horrific floods that plagued the north of England in 2007, almost like the sort of the watery wrath of God had came down on an already quite depressed town, you know, and people were losing their jobs all over the place. And
so is it quite gritty? Is it quite real? Or
it's very gritty, but in that beautifully kind of lyrically poetic sort of sense. I mean, the author himself makes the point that this being a fishing town traditionally, you know, 6 times more people died fishing than even mining, you know. So there's a natural stoicism to the people of Hull. There's a natural sort of stoicism, but also a kind of tenderness, also a sort of compassion that comes out of that. He makes a beautiful phrase that they're romantic realists, you know, their anchors are made from flowers, which is a gorgeous phrase to sum them up. So that sort of absolutely translates into a storytelling. You know, these people are, sure, that, you know, they're traipsing through their gritty lives, sort of fag in one hand, kebab in the other. But, you know, they're having a rollicking time of it. You know, there's more life in this than the average kind of acclaimed bookery novel that you might have.
OK, now, easy to follow, because if we're trying to follow the strands of 10 different characters, did you find it, I mean, does it all come together quite nicely?
I've read this now about 4 times, and I keep picking up different things in it. I would say possibly like something like The Wire, the TV series, or even something like a Raymond Carver novel, perhaps something like Shortcuts. And I mentioned Shortcuts because, first of all, I think Russ Litten is quite a fan of Carver, and that definitely comes through his writing. Secondly, if you remember the film of Shortcuts, it starts with helicopters crisscrossing the screen. I think they're providing insecticide to Los Angeles or the local area. It's almost analogous with this, and you've got helicopters crisscrossing Hull, you know, looking for people who are flooded beyond belief, you know, and these helicopter lights are sort of illuminating different scenarios and families and people going through their grubby, brilliant, comical, rollicking, fantastically sad and beautiful lives.
I'm not even going to ask you if you enjoyed it. It's fairly evident you did if you're on your 4th or 5th reading. What have we heard from Russ Litten before? Because this is, as you said, debut novel.
Yeah, well, he's a film writer, he was a script writer and a writer who's always written fiction along the way. He's also, according to his Twitter feed, which I looked up, he's also been a puppet vendor, a window cleaner with a Mohican, and a potato delivery man. So all those kind of jobs actually some of which I've actually held, actually, things like sort of postman and dustman, things that look good on the back of book jackets.
And fed his novel well. You've called it superb. What was it you liked particularly about it?
I liked its veracity, I liked its authenticity. One of the things I'd like to point out is he's absolutely bang on the money about certain aspects of life and society. There's some scenes here set in a psychiatric hospital. Now, a mate of mine was sectioned last year, and I had reason to visit him, and he has got the scenario of the place and the people in it bang on, absolutely bang on. And I believe Russ Litten actually worked for a summer in a private residential psychiatric home. So he definitely knows what he's talking about. The realism totally comes through. I mean, if I have a niggle with this, and it's a tiny, tiny niggle, a Nigel, with this thing, and it's not really aimed at the book or Russ Litten, actually. It's aimed at a genre staple, which is just for once, in one book, I'm sure, there may be, I don't know, but just for once, I'd like to see a book where there's a happy transvestite. A transvestite who isn't a pathetic joke of a thing. And you know, I just want to say this is not, personally, I'm not standing up for this, you know, I like nylons, but not on my legs, you know.
This is what's happened in this one. And you've said, actually, this will do what Last Exit for Brooklyn did for New York. You can see this.
Yes, I wrote that, and I've reviewed this for Word magazine, actually, and I wrote that a Word magazine, and I stand by it. I think it will do for, or it should do for Hull, or that little corner of East Riding, what Last Exit did for New York.
Okay, so if there was a film of the book, it would be soundtracked by the likes
It would be. Well, I tell you what, if Shane Meadows is listening, or someone with the wherewithal to do it, I would love you to make a TV series of this, at least a film or a TV series. And yes, it would certainly be soundtracked by the Arctic Monkeys, I think.
Okay.
Or actually, no, even better, it would be the Smiths and Morrissey's Russian Ruffians, where a boy is stabbed and his money is grabbed and the air hangs heavy like a dulling wine.
We will go. We've been Smiths. We've been to meet his murder already this Saturday from Morrissey. Let's do Arctics now, and we'll come back with Ali with 127 Hours after this. Okay, so from the grit and reality of Hull and East Riding to the, well, gritty reality of being stuck in Utah under a boulder, Ali Catterall's back with us. 127 Hours between a rock and a hard place. Recently adapted for film by Danny Boyle, obviously. The book, then, The Climber.
This is, indeed, this is the original, Aron Ralston's memoir, Between a Rock and a Hard Place, renamed 127 Hours, cannily, to tie with Danny Boyle's release. As you may know, in my other life, I'm a film critic, and I'm finding it quite hard to extricate, disentangle, much like Aron Ralston did with The Boulder, between the book and the film.
Okay, so true to each other that they are. I mean,
Boyle has done a magnificent. I don't want to talk about the film in any great detail because this is a book club. But Boyle has done an incredibly faithful job of the book. Having said that, the main difference. I mean, if you've seen the film, you'll have read at least half the book, because the main difference with the book is that it continually crisscrosses between his immediate. Hang up. Yeah. What's the word? Is immediate
position.
Position. Yes. A date with density, you might say, and his past, and the sort of factors and scenarios and chapters in his life which might have led up to him being the sort of person capable of doing that.
Of getting himself.
If people don't quite understand what I'm talking about. What's happened is that a boulder has essentially pinioned his right arm against a canyon wall in Utah. He's been there for about 5 days, hence the title 127 Hours. And he's basically out of water, he's certainly out of food, he's reduced to drinking his own urine, he's essentially dying. And one of the most interesting factors about all of this is he's filming it, or intermittently filming this on his own camcorder. I mean, you know, we live in a society now where we're filming or processing or relating the entire minutiae of our daily lives, you know, whether it's through Twitter or Facebook. This is a guy who was filming himself essentially dying with a camcorder. You know, it's very different from, you can imagine, Scott of the Arctic, you know, saying, I'm going to go out now or maybe sometime, but has anyone got a charger for a Nokia, you know? And
do we get the kind of, I mean, that comes across in the book, obviously, because, you know, we're not seeing the film then, we're just reading his words, his
really does, and the man is a beautiful writer. This is one of the most surprising things about it. You can imagine a lot of these, a lot of people have been in this position. Most people are not natural writers, you know? A book like this would have been, you know, traditionally or typically kind of ghost-written, or it would be in accompaniment with...
And we're reading Aron Ralston.
We're reading his actual words. The man is a beautiful writer. It's as gripping as any thriller. Certainly the episode, you know, the money shot, if you like, for the film and the novel. The money shot, while you're reading it, you're alternately gripped and mesmerised and you can't put it down. Another half of you wants to fling the book down, just run like crazy and vomit somewhere. Yes, you're there with him. This is the mark of an extremely talented writer. You are there with him as he is sawing, pulling, hacking with the kind of knife you would use as a spare. The sort of thing, little better than a joke shop knife, Nemone. You know, something you might find at the bottom of a drawer in an old camping shop.
Haven't seen it yet, don't need to see that bit, don't think. We'll be turning away when I finally do see the film. And interestingly, actually, this accident happened to him, or this predicament happened the same year that Touching the Void came out.
Yeah, I think Touching the Void came out around about November to December, the film, and this happened earlier in the year. But yes, very strange and bizarre coincidence.
Okay, so we've got the reissue of Aron Ralston's Between a Rock and a Hard Place.